We must now realize the promise of America by trusting God, unifying our vision, and building our future. Hi, I'm Scott Ott, and this is Bill Whittle Now. And Bill, with those words, Kanye West announced, I am running for president of the United States. And then hashtag 2020 vision, just to make it clear that it's 2020 he's talking about, because back in 2015, he also announced that he was running for president of the United States. But at that time, he quickly made it clear that it wouldn't be in 2016 that he was doing so. And while many people treat this as a joke at the sometimes sort of what's a good word to describe Kanye West? Unpredictable Kanye West is announcing now that he's running for president. Elon Musk, the founder and CEO of Tesla and SpaceX and the Boring Company and several other operations, tweeted back and said, "You have my full support." Now, Bill, I know a lot of people are treating this as a joke, and there are some 6 states in which it is already too late for Kanye West to get on the ballot. But it occurs to me that if he's serious about this, that he could be a potential risk both to President Donald Trump and to the presumptive nominee of the Democratic Party, Joe Biden. What is your assessment?
That's it exactly. I think anybody who was going to vote for Trump, let me rephrase that. A number of blacks who were going to were thinking about voting for Trump, thought so because of Kanye West and because of Kanye West's association with Donald Trump. And that was an enormously important move. And so the question on the surface is, if Kanye West were to run independently and pull a significant enough amount of the vote, would he pull all of the black Trump supporters, which would help Biden, or would he pull enough of the total black vote to help Trump? Because black votes traditionally run very strongly Democrat.
Yeah, I think you've said before that what's the number that you've quoted, that if the Democratic Party doesn't get like 85% of the black vote, they can't win an election?
It's really the truth. I was astonished to see it. I mean, I remember the number knocked me just gobsmacked me when I first saw it. But that's basically it. It's the margin of error. You know, we talk about how polarized the country is, and needless to say, it really is. And it's getting worse. And I'm not trying to minimize any of that stuff. But a blowout in American politics is 55 to 45, 56, 44. That's a landslide of epic proportions. I mean, you really do sometimes have to stand back and look at that and just say, my God, the balance is really pretty remarkable if you think about it. You would think that given the way that the ideological punditry has swung back and forth, the left and the right, and everything that we've all been talking about for since we were, zygotes. You would think that the differences are so wide that the vote would be, depending on the mood of the country, 85, 90 to 10. But the actual general election vote for president, the popular vote, that's not how president's elected, but the popular vote is always within 3 or 4 percentage points, it seems to me, at least recently. So while you may not think that his ability to pull a large number of people is relevant or even possible, the bottom line is, if you pull the right people, you can really actually affect the outcome of the election. And what raises the question for me, Scott, an interesting question is, I didn't hear anything about a falling out with Donald Trump or Kanye West. I wonder if this is some kind of plan to help each other.
I don't know about that. I do know that former Vice President Joe Biden has been scrambling around trying to find a vice presidential running mate, and there's been a lot of talk. Of course, we only see what gets reported in the news, and that in many cases is false, and in other cases it's trial balloons being floated by various interested entities. But it seemed like Joe Biden was desperately trying to find a black female vice presidential running mate. And while he's fiddling around doing this, and some people ostensibly might vote for Joe Biden because he had a black female running mate, they might otherwise just say, hey, I'll tell you what, how about a successful business person who's been able to make his name known across the country in a variety of fields, who's linked in with one of the most famous families in America, and who, frankly, could go up against a very famous reality TV show personality with an even bigger reality TV show personality?
Kanye West is not fit to be president of the United States, and I don't think there's any doubt about that. But I swear to God, if it was a choice between him and if it was a choice between Hillary Clinton and Kanye West, I'd go all out for Kanye West, and I think I would prefer him over Joe Biden, to be perfectly honest with you. But this is the question. The first question is, I'm assuming he's running as an independent, obviously.
I think there are still some I's to be dotted and T's to be crossed on the plan here.
Right. Yeah. And S's to be squiggled and W's to be.
Yes.
Yeah, you pretty much got the entire alphabet left to do. But let's assume, for the sake of the argument, that he can pull that off and manage to get on 43 ballots. I think you said 6 are already locked out. What his ability to pull votes, especially from the Black community, will be predicated, I think, on whether he's wise enough to say that this is the beginning of a movement that's going to reach full flower in 2024. The Republicans' first presidential campaign was in 1856 with John Fremont. It was a three-way race, actually, and needless to say, the Democrat won that, Buchanan. But in 1860, the Republicans had gained enough strength and had gained enough legitimacy so that Abraham Lincoln could be the nominee. If Kanye West is smart enough, and he's a smart guy, he has a big ego problem, but so do a lot of people in politics. If he's smart enough to say that this is the beginning of a movement, then I suspect he may get a significant amount of votes from people who are so disgusted and disaffected with both political parties that they would throw him a protest vote. I don't think there's any serious voter thinks that, in fact, no serious voter believes that Kanye West is going to be president. The only question would be, how many votes can he pull and who would he pull them from? But if he had vision, and he is a smart guy and he's a shrewd businessman, if he had vision, he would basically say something like, we're going hard for this one. Who knows? We might win. It's a crazy year. But if we don't, we're laying the foundation so that in 2024, we're going to come back and win then. Then I think that gives it a lot more credibility than to say, hey, I just feel like running for president this year. And furthermore, if he goes that route, he can also say, and by the way, if you vote for me, I become a power broker. In other words, I can do things on behalf of my supporters as a result of the facts that I may hold the balance of the election in my hand.
I can see, in addition to people who are just kind of sick of both parties and both candidates, I could see a significant number of people, don't know what that number is, but some people, I think, would be willing to say, you know what? We need to do something about this racial justice issue. It wasn't enough to elect Barack Obama. This problem continues. I'll tell you what, I'm just going to let the politicians in both parties know that I think that they have miserably failed us, and I'm going to vote for a Black man running for president, even if I know he doesn't have a chance.
I think that experiment has been tried. I don't think anybody who's paying attention still believes that by voting for a Black person, the charges of racism in this country or directed at individuals are going to go away. The one thing we saw was that racism and charges of racism exponentially exploded under Barack Obama's presidency. He could have put this whole thing away, That's the real tragedy.
No, I'm not talking about white
years.
guilt vote. I'm talking about people who are supportive of the movement against police brutality and in favor of racial justice, who would say, I'm voting this way.
Well, that is not a significant number of people, given Kanye's obvious lack of credentials. If it turned out that there was an otherwise viable candidate who was going down that path, you'd have a really good case. I have to tell you, I'm just thinking it over in terms of, independent third-party vote. If I had to pick a third-party candidate who I thought had a legitimate, real chance, I'd go with Elon Musk and an amendment to the Constitution.
So that he could actually be president because he's not a natural-born U.S. citizen.
Yeah, exactly. And that standard has been beaten into the ground anyway. So I think that if you're talking about Kanye West as somebody who would appeal to everybody, I just don't think he's the guy who will draw significant numbers of white voters, working class voters, or so on, or so on. But Elon Musk is a possibility. Would have appeal for liberals. You'd have a big appeal for conservatives now, and so on. But look, the Trump voters are not going to leave Donald Trump in this election. It's just not going to happen. They're not going to leave him for anyone. And they're going to stay with Donald Trump through thick and thin. So it's going to be Donald Trump for the Republicans, TBD for the Democrats. I personally suspect that the plan is to get Biden through the nomination process. Once he's the nominee and prior to the election, if he should decide to drop out for the good of the party and spend more time with his grandchildren, that kind of thing, then the Democratic National Committee essentially picks somebody, anybody. They don't have to go through the primary process, nothing. They just pick somebody. So I think that's the likely Democratic candidate in 2020. And then if Kanye West decides to run, then the question will be how serious is he and how fired up can he get people about politics? And I got to tell you, I don't think he's going to be terribly successful at pulling votes of any kind. I really don't.
I do want to, for the final question, Bill, I want to challenge your assertion that he's not qualified for the presidency. Arguably, he has as much experience as candidate Donald Trump had. And in fact, one might argue that he's actually been a more successful business person than Donald Trump without the string of bankruptcies and failed business attempts that the president had. I don't know that there is a qualification for presidency of the United States other than the age and natural born citizenship thing anymore. I don't really think people think of the presidency that way.
Well, I agree. And to be honest with you, from a purely philosophical point of view, that's how it should be. The entire idea is that the people of the country should be able to put forth a candidate who wins an election based on his ability to convince voters to vote for him and on no other considerations other than the legal minimum age. So on one hand, I definitely, there's no conditioning, there's no but following this. I think anybody should be able to run for president, and I think anybody should be able to win the presidency if they can convince the American people in each individual state so that the states vote for him to be president. But I don't think Kanye West has that kind of, I don't think he has stature in that area. And I think, unlike Trump, I think Kanye West is a lot more radical than Donald Trump is. And most of, in fact, virtually all of Trump's support, I don't see going over to Kanye West at all. The only real support I see going to Kanye are people who came to Trump because of Kanye. But I think the biggest amount of support that Kanye West could pull would be, I think he could pull a lot of, I don't know how many, but he could pull a significant number of Democrats away from Joe Biden, who does not appeal to black voters in any way, shape, or form, and who is already noticeably weak in that particular demographic, which they have to have. Trump, on the other hand, I've heard is at 40% among black male voters. That alone is probably enough to do it, but it is a wild card in a wild card year. And no one is safe making any predictions if the calendar is, say, in 2020.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're grateful for the time you spent watching this conversation, and we want you to know about the people who made that possible. They are the members at BillWhittle.com. They fund this enterprise. They also provide their own content behind the paywall, so to speak, at BillWhittle.com. And they generate their own blog, vigorous comment section. They have access to a private member directory and private messaging, and they get backstage content that you can't see unless you're a member. If you have not yet joined, go to BillWhittle.com and click that big green Become a Member button. For Bill Whittle, I'm Scott Ott. Thanks for watching.